If you won 1,000 Fortnite 1v1s, would it actually make you any better? Well, you see, back in 2022, I was actually one of the fastest KBM console players on the planet. But after fast editing started to die out and creators like Rift and NotLuke were uploading less and less, I decided to stop fast editing and focus on hitting clips in 1v1s instead. And once I switched to PC, over the next year, I got so good at 1v1s that my entire channel turned into montages I hit in 1v1 maps, meaning my fighting was at the best it had ever been. But then I quit. And after coming back to the game over a year later, my fighting was nowhere near as good as it used to be, so much so that to this day, I still haven't managed to get back to that same level I was at in 2023, which made me wonder if I grinded 1v1s the same way I did back then, so much so that I won 1,000 of them, would it have the same effect and drastically improve my fighting? Oh my god, that was clean. Step 1, we need some rules. First, I have to play against each opponent until either me or them have 5 wins. This forces me to play against good players until I actually lose, and stops me from farming some poor 10-year-old for 100 free wins. Secondly, I wanted to stop leaving every time I got a bad server. There's currently a bug in EU 1v1s where you either get a normal server or one with 20 to 30 ping more than usual. Normally I would leave these, but they're actually better practice for my in-game ping, so I'm no longer going to leave them. And lastly, if someone is absolutely destroying me and then leaves, I can't just count that as 5 wins because they dipped. I can only count a round as a win if I actually eliminate them. Now for these first few hours I was actually playing way better than they expected, even hitting the odd clip or two, which was very surprising. The majority of players I was fighting were pretty decent at the game, with there only being one player I lost to in the first 200 wins. Looking back, I really should have won this because I was making a lot of stupid mistakes, but it gave me some good things to work on. However, as you do get in public 1v1s, I got my fair share of very questionable players. You can't be serious. Is this guy good? He's messing up his 90s. With an alarming number of people struggling to do even just 90s or double edits. Okay, one more 1v1 until we hit 100. I have no clue what this man's doing. No! But these were definitely some refreshing breaks in between trying as hard as I could against good players. Across these first 200 wins, there were a lot of flaws in my gameplay. That was a stupid peak, but I hope to iron these out across the 1,000 wins. So, coming into the next 200 wins, my goal was to start working on improving my consistency. I'm used to doing a quad edit playstyle when I play 1v1s, but anyone with a brain would tell you that's completely unnecessary. So I started by going into my own 1v1 map that I would be using for this video but none of you play it, to come up with a playstyle I could do way more consistently. Now, I've been able to do triple edits all the way to height limit for a few years now, so my best bet for being more consistent was to try and develop a triple edit playstyle. And by adding in some more protective retakes, high walls and side jumps, I ended up with a playstyle I could do for ages without messing up. I then paired this with some crosshair placement practice in Raiders Mechanics Training V5, making my mechanics feel more consistent than ever. However, from 200 to 400 wins, everything started to get a lot harder. Even with the more consistent mechanics, playing 1v1s for over 4 hours straight was definitely something I wasn't used to. This exhaustion caused me to make a lot of stupid mistakes, like bad peaks or rushing my aim and missing easy shots. And this really showed when I came up against someone with 7 KPR and got absolutely destroyed. I was so determined to gain something out of it that I even played until I got 11-0'd. No matter how hard I tried, I somehow couldn't win a round. One of the main reasons I was struggling was definitely due to my peaks, so after heading into Raiders Mechanics Training V5 and doing some peak training, I made it my sole focus to try and take as many safe peaks as possible. My hope was that, with these more consistent mechanics, this would be a lot easier to do. And over the next few hours, I actually managed to get better at taking safer peaks. Sure, there were still a lot of mistakes, changing years of bad muscle memory takes time, but I was getting more and more used to actually thinking through each peak before I took a shot. You obviously can't guarantee that everyone you come across will be good at the game, but even bad players can actually be useful for practicing things like peaks, since it gives you a chance to slow down and think things through. As I came up to 400 wins, my main weakness was definitely my aim. In the end, it doesn't matter what peaks you take if you don't hit any shots, so coming into the next 200 wins, that was something I really wanted to improve on. Although 1v1s certainly aren't an aim trainer, there are some easy tricks you can apply to your mechanics to really help your aim, and 1v1s are a great way of practicing them. With shotguns, your main priority is to hit as many pellets as possible, because the more pellets that hit the target, the more damage the shotgun does. An easy way to increase how many pellets hit another player is by managing the spread. Aiming down sight is the best way to reduce pellet spread, but it's not always practical. However, if you crouch just before you shoot, this will reduce pellet spread massively, and if you stand still, it'll also drastically improve your pellet spread. So over the next 200 wins, my goal was to try and drill these into my muscle memory. It definitely took a while before I started to see a difference in my aim, with it feeling pretty pointless doing these against very bad players. But once I started to come across some better people and I needed to lock in, my aim was definitely improving. One of the best things about 1v1s is the fact that you can just drill one thing over and over until you get it right, so things like crouching when I shoot didn't take long to become a real part of my muscle memory. This was also great for practicing things I've been working on from Destiny's Jesus Fighting Masterclass, and if you too want to learn from the huge lineup of pros who helped create it, you can actually use code SHADOW for 20% off anything site-wide. Click the link in the description to start improving today. After I hit 600 wins, I headed into headshot only box fights. Before these 200 wins, I did a baseline test for my aim and somehow only got 16 kills within the 10 minutes, which is terrible. But after the 200 wins, I managed to get 28 kills within the 10 minutes. This isn't too crazy, but I did manage to kill pro player Gearas 5 times, which I was pretty happy about. Now, coming into these next 200 wins, this is where playing this many 1v1s really started to take its toll. At this point, I'd been playing 1v1s for over 12 hours across multiple days, and was desperate to finally hit 1,000 wins, and one way I could help that was to try and end fights as quickly as possible. Something I struggle with in game is ending fights fast, which often leads to me getting third partied, but if I can learn things like exploits and perfect how I pressure opponents, this could really help me end fights quicker. I started by working on my exploits in Raiders Mechanics Training V5, because to do these consistently you need to master the timing. Exploits using a ramp are usually the easiest, but when it came to using your momentum to walk through someone's turbo build, this is where the map came in clutch. And coming into my next 200 wins, this was definitely helping. This was by far my fastest segment of the video, ending rounds much quicker than I was before. Although ending fights this quickly does come with its risks. But overall, this definitely made it more enjoyable because I was just running through people as quickly as possible. And it wasn't long before I hit my best clip of the video so far. Obviously not the most impressive clip, but god damn was that satisfying. And it wasn't long afterwards that I finally hit 800 wins. Now, for these last 200 wins, I was really struggling for motivation. At this point, I'd been playing 1v1s for over 16 hours in total, and was desperate to get to the end. But then I thought back to why I enjoyed grinding 1v1s so much back in 2023. It was that feeling of finally hitting a clip I'd envisioned hours beforehand, that extra motivation you get when you land a crisp 200 to finish a clip exactly how you imagined, or hitting that perfect filler that slots flawlessly into your next montage. So, throughout these final 200 wins, I wanted to bring back that enjoyment from the past, going for as many clips as humanly possible, with the goal of making a short montage for the end of the video, all while still keeping at least a 75% win rate across the next few hours. And as you've seen from these clips, I was flying throughout the next few hundred 1v1s. Hitting clip after clip, with my mechanics being at the best they have ever been. Bro. I'm behind you, man. Turn around. He's so lost. Hello? I did, however, start to slow down towards the end, but this was by far my most enjoyable part of the challenge, achieving an 87% win rate across the 200 wins, and after over 20 hours of recording, I finally hit 1,000 wins. But there still remains that one important question: did this actually make me any better? Well, in my last video I failed to hit Unreal within a week of trying, so my goal was to see if all this practice had improved my fighting enough to get me that last 23% of champion. And if you think that's going to be easy, just go back and watch my last video. So I decided to head into solo ranked with a 3-hour time limit to hit Unreal. If I couldn't hit Unreal within those 3 hours, then the 1v1s were a fail, but if I could, they were definitely worth the practice. Now, as expected, I did need to warm up a bit when jumping into ranked, getting a 1 kill 4th and then a 0 kill 27th. But once I managed to lock in, it wasn't long before I really started cooking.
Oh, get out.
After that 5 kill win, I was feeling pretty good, sitting at 93%, but this is where everything went wrong. I then proceeded to die off spawn 2 games in a row, losing an insane 9% in just 10 minutes. Because of that, I decided to play it a bit safer, only taking fights I needed to and avoiding anything with a high risk of getting third partied. And it wasn't long before I picked up multiple second places and finally climbed back up to 97%. Just one more game. Now, my last game started horrendously. I had to swerve from my drop spot because of a bad drop and ended up with only a few chests for loot. I then waited on the edge of the map for the zone to close in so I could scavenge for loot without anyone seeing me. Luckily, it wasn't long before I found some gloves left behind at an old fight and managed to leave Storm with some decent loot. This then allowed me to strategically wait until endgame before avoiding everyone until I secured a second place. Probably one of the most boring games I've ever played, but hey, at least it got me unreal. In the end, my fighting had definitely improved, but maybe not the huge amount I was expecting. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy the montage.
Oh my god, that was clean.
Woo!